So I've been messing with the audio. Hopefully it sounds good on the other end. But welcome to episode 4 of Classic Sci-Fi, part 2. This episode was supposed to come out way earlier, but high school started again, and so I'm getting back on the wagon. I finally, got to watch some movies that I was gonna watch, and got to write some notes. So I'm not prepared as I was. We're not gonna hear me ranting the whole time, but I am gonna be talking about the ins and outs of the movie and things, comparing them. Today we're gonna talk about Alien and Alien 2. If you don't know Alien, then first off, you live under a rock and you don't know any pop culture. And 2, Alien is kind of like one of the original sci-fi movies, and I like saying that because it did do a lot for sci-fi and for horror in general. So without talking about it too much, I'm gonna go into Alien 1, and then I'll talk about Alien 2, and then we'll compare and contrast, and I'll talk a little bit more about how the stories how they vary and just the ins and outs. So yeah. So Alien was released in 1979. The director is Ridley Scott. Let me see. Let me go through my notes. So Alien opens with the Nostromo, which is their ship, flying in space to Earth, carrying about 20 million tons of ore. There are 7 people on board, and those people are Dallas, Kane, Ripley, Lambert, Ash, Parker, and Brett. I'm going to be referring to all of them by last name because to say Ellen and to say their first names, it's going to be too messy, so I'm just going to, just last names. What happens on their way home is that they kind of okay, so they're in cryostasis, right? And if you don't know what cryostasis is, it's where you're basically frozen and preserved like meat. It also makes sure that your body stays safe from environments. And as much as there shouldn't be any environments in space, there is. So yeah, it's a cool concept, and this movie, from what I've seen so far, from looking way back at classic sci-fi, is one of the first movies that really portrays it in a way that it would become a kind of a capitalized or it's an economic thing. It really becomes business. It's not just the supervillain that has this. It's common. They come out of stasis too early. Their destination, which is like I said, Earth, is still light years away, and it's because their ship, which they have this computer, kind of like Jarvis or whatever. That's really degrading. It's not at all like Jarvis. It's really just the ship. The ship's called Mother, and it found a transmission that none of them can really tell. They know it's not human for sure, and that startles them. The engineers, who are, I believe they're Parker and Brett, they don't want to investigate because they're like, oh, we're not getting paid to investigate this stuff. Ripley, she says well, we kind of we should maybe we should or whatever. And then Ash, who is the science officer, says that they are required to in their contract by working for the ship. And then Dallas, of course, who's captain, he makes the final say, and he says, yes, as it says in our contract, we must go to the planet and investigate what's going on. So they head to this planet, and it's such a cool sequence. I mean, I want to say there's a lot of movies where they have crazy spaceship scenes. Interstellar is one of them. I've talked about Interstellar on my podcast already. Interstellar has a really great docking scene, but in this movie, the exhibition that they do, they have a sub-ship that comes off from the Nostromo, and seeing a whole sequence of them actually releasing from the bay and going down and landing on the planet, they have all these like intricate instruments and like type of designs with arrays. And I mean, and think about like this was in the 70s when they created this movie, so to see that was such a cool like I practical effect. It was a practical effect. I mean, it was a computer, and there's no way to really CGI in the 70s. So it was a really cool. Yeah, I enjoyed that part of the movie. The whole sequence is such a cool thing. Honestly, I would say go watch that scene. Or actually, no, go watch the whole movie, but like go watch that scene specifically because you will understand how certain movies that are horror or certain movies that have to do with space do take from that scene. As they reach the planet, they stumble across this like giant croissant thing, and also keep in mind, on the exhibition, there are three people who go, which are Lambert, Kane, and Dallas. They all go to go figure out where the signal's coming from, and they don't really find anything for a while until they finally reach this like kind of croissant looking spaceship, and I'm gonna call it a croissant because it looks like a croissant, and if anyone says otherwise, bite me, it is a croissant. So yeah, they find this weird croissant structure, and they cannot immediately tell it's alien. As they're going through, they're finding all these weird like architecture, but then they come across the remains of a gigantic alien, and Kane makes a comment. Who's like, I think Kane was like one of the co-captains, I want to say. But he says that the bones were bent outward, like it exploded from the inside. So yeah, we learned that. That's great to hear. And so while they're on there, Ash, who like I said is a spine specialist, he's kind of just like watching their cams on their suits. Ellen deciphers the message, going through and like reading it. And they find out it's a warning. She takes it to Ash because Ash is in charge of the expedition while they're on the ship, and she finds, like, she says, "Hey, like, I don't think this is safe. Like, we need to bring him back." Ash says that it's already against protocol for her to like go out of the ship while there's that going on, and so she remarks like, "Blah blah blah. Screw you, Ash. It's not worth the resources," is basically what he says, and he completely denounces her fear. And so she sits back down, and Ash is like, they'll know the origin of the signal by the time you get there. And so the signal isn't really talked about too much, which is kind of disappointing. That's what I really don't understand, was the signal was kind of the catalyst for what happens throughout the movie, but we don't really understand what the signal is, period. And it's explained later on in a different movie. But anyways, like I said, the signal isn't talked about for long because Kane finds aliens or alien eggs in this really big, it almost looks like a farm or like a farm or like a crop field of alien eggs. And so he goes in there, and there's a weird mist that covers the top like a laser. And so he drops, he slips, and he falls down, and he goes to look at him, and one of them opens, one of the eggs, and something jumps out at him. And so everyone's all like, what the hell? Like, no, Kane got kablooied. Lambert are carrying Kane while Kane has this thing stuck to his face that looks like an octopus. And as they're getting towards the ship, Ripley won't let him in because of quarantine protocols. And it states that, like, if XYZ were to happen, then you're not supposed to let anyone back on the ship. Ash, who is under Ripley, he breaks her order, and he breaks protocol and lets everyone on the ship, and therefore breaking quarantine. And when he does this, Ripley is obviously pissed off because she doesn't know what the hell he just brought on the ship. In this situation, they send Kane to the med bay, and they set him down on the table. And so there's this thing on his, they take off his suit, whatever, and there's this thing on his face, like I said, looks like an octopus until you look at it more, and it looks more like a hand with like a tail that's wrapping around his neck and holding onto his face. They look at it, and They see like they take an X-ray scan. They say that there's something in his throat that it's put in its throat in his throat, and they don't want to talk about that too much. And so then Dallas is like, "What if we just kill it?" And Ash remarks, which remember Ash is science officer, so he is kind of in charge of this whole making sure Kane doesn't die thing. But Ash remarks that like if he's already surviving, we don't know if like killing it is gonna kill Kane, and so he kind of they kind of let it go on there until Ash is like, man, I don't know, and then Dallas is like, we should probably remove it, and so Ash is like, you're right. So Ash says with his British voice, like, we have to remove one of the digits, or like, let me try and remove one of the digits or whatever, because it looks like a hand. And when he tries to cut it, acid pours out, and the acid cuts through or eats through the floor, and then it eats through the next floor, and it's like Ripley and like Lambert and all the other characters besides, no, I think Dallas was included. They're all running around like trying to figure out where the acid falls and whatnot. And it like right as it was about to go through like their last layer of defense before it's the hull, the acid stops, and they're like that like we cannot touch it or else it's gonna eat through the entire floor. Ash is like, you need to come like see Kane or whatever, and it's all serious and stuff. And we find that Kane is alive, he's awake, and he's fine. And so they go to the med bay and they're like, where's the thing though? And it falls on Ripley's shoulder as they're looking for it from the roof, and it's dead. That's kind of that's where I would say part one of the movie is done. Part two is what I would say where the true horror begins. It starts off with Kane saying like, I need something to eat, like let's get some food in me. And so they go and eat some food, and they're talking about what they're gonna do when they get back home, and it's this really sweet moment until Kane starts choking, and then they put him on the table. One of the most classic things, or like let's now consider one of the most classic scenes in horror, a chest burster, which looks like a worm with a mouth and like a mouth of sharp teeth and no eyes, shoots out of his chest and like jumps away and like kind of like runs away. It's kind of a weird thing, even though it's just a worm. And so they are all now like what the hell? Kane's obviously dead. Like Kane's more than dead. Yeah. So that happens. And then the whole team is now worried about like what this alien is or what it's gonna do. And so they kind of go on this chase for the alien. Kane talks about how you can't kill it. They need to capture it because of the company. And that's one thing. They don't ever say what the company's name is. They just say the company the entire time. And so they're like, we need to make sure that we can go find it, because the company says so. And they're all like, frick you, Kane, but whatever, blah, blah, blah. So they decide to engineer a special gadget, which is like a motion sensor. And it is like this huge box. And then they need weapons, obviously. So they arm themselves with the help of one of the engineers with cattle prongs. And so they're like, oh, okay, we'll use that then. And so with their prongs and with their detectors, they all begin to hunt the ship, like hunt around the ship. Ripley goes with the two engineers, and Dallas and Lambert, and I'm pretty sure Ash kind of helps too, but he's not as helpful as the rest of them. They all go to look for this alien thing, and while Ripley and I think it's Parker and Brett are the engineers, they as they're looking around, they get scared by a cat, and I can't remember, what's the cat's name? Jonesy. Jonesy's the cat's name. That's what it was. So yeah, with they get scared by Jonesy, and it's while Ripley, Parker, and Brett are together, and Parker and I think Ripley were both like, why'd you not get the cat, Brett? And Brett's like, I don't know. And so they're like, go get it. And he's all, okay. And so as he goes to get the cat, you think everything's going to go well, but unfortunately, Brett sees the true horror of what happens when you whenever you face a grown alien. And Brett is taken by this gigantic beast that comes down from the cooling system of the ship. And it's this really not dramatic scene, but it's like this what? It's like mind-blowing scene. Anyways, with Brett completely disappearing, they assume obviously Brett's dead. And so now it's just left with Dallas, Ripley, Lambert, Ash, and Parker. From here, Dallas decides that they need to trap it and blow it off the ship into smithereens. So this is the plan, right? Dallas is gonna go in there with a flamethrower, right? Because he's a badass. We all love Dallas. Dallas the captain. He's gonna go in there with a flamethrower, and he's gonna go in there with the motion sensor, as well as Ripley, Lambert, Parker, and Ash all on the comms telling him where the alien is. As they're on comms and they're looking for the alien, they see that it's approaching him rapidly, right? There's very low lighting in the vents, by the way. I don't know if you've ever been inside of a ventilation system. I haven't. I pray to God that you were in there only for good reasons or because you work in it. But, I'd assume they'd be dark. They go in there, it's dark, it's creepy, whatever, and this alien's chasing him, and the alien runs up to him, he can't see where it is. They're like, it's right in front of you, Dallas. And then it goes off the map, and Dallas turns, and the flames reveal an alien right in front of him. That's gonna it does a weird. Okay, real quick. The first alien ever was practical. It was a complete practical suit with actual animatronics inside of it. But it is one of the goofiest things I've ever seen. To see an alien go, bah! It really does a horror movie, bah! In front of Dallas. And it made me giggle a little bit. But unfortunately, we lose Dallas in the vents. Lambert cries about it. And so, yeah. So Dallas is gone. Now it's just Parker, Lambert, Ripley, and Ash. Ripley, now being in charge, decides she's going to go have a chat with Mother. And she goes to chat with Mother, and Mother gives a detail that says, preserve organism, crew expendable. And she doesn't know who this message is for, and she imagines it's Dallas, but Dallas is dead, obviously, so it doesn't make sense why it would matter. Until we see that it was actually for Ash. Ash attacks Ripley because Ripley wants to obviously get rid of this organism, and Ash says think about it, this is for the company, and she's all she says F the company or whatever. And so Ash grabs Ripley. They start fighting. Actually, I say that they start fighting, but it's more Ash assaults Ripley bad. And keep in mind, Sigourney Weaver, the actress who plays Ripley, which by the way, Sigourney Weaver is awesome and definitely amazing. Sigourney Weaver's a tall woman. Ash was not a tall man. She was 6 foot, I think, and he was maybe 5'5", 5'6", Kevin Hart. I'm talking. So they start fighting, quote unquote. Then Parker hops in, and so does Lambert, and they're fighting Ash to stay away. And then I'm pretty sure one of them grabs a air canister or something heavy, and they hit Ash on the side of the head. And he starts blowing up with milk. I kid you not. It's a white substance. And so it's I guess it's his blood. Basically they bust his head open. And surprise, surprise, he's an android. And his head's he's making all the weird extraterrestrial sounds. And eventually he shuts down. And so they're he's an android. Oh man, he's an android. What the heck? But yeah, so so that happens, and they turn on Ash again, and they're asking him questions like what the hell, like what the hell, Ash? Why are we here? Like, what are they trying to find? He's like, we've been looking for the perfect organism for years or whatever. Like, this is truly a special occasion. Blah blah blah. And then they finally kill Ash, which is like, thank God he did. But now it's down with Parker, Lambert, and Ripley. And they really think that they can survive because there are escape pods. And so Lambert and Parker like are gonna go to the escape pods. The alien takes out Lambert and Parker. And when it does, Ripley decides there's one thing left to do, and that is to destroy the ship. So there's a bomb on the ship, which is such a cool looking bomb, by the way. It's like so it's like a box, like a big box with 4 cylinders that come out, and you have to arm them using like a certain code. It's such a cool thing to see. Like, I don't know, I love it so much. But yeah, so she arms the bomb, and she's wearing her suit already, and she's running through. She's like finding Jonesy. It's this long sequence of like the alien, like her not knowing where it is, until finally she gets onto the ship, and it's like, amen to that. And she flies away, and then we see one of the coolest but least realistic explosions in space ever. It looks like I'm telling you, it looks like a supernova. It's awesome. It is insane, and I did not expect it at all from this movie when I watched it, because this wasn't me. Like, I had watched Alien, but I had watched Alien when I was like 10, so I didn't really remember much of this stuff. But now that I'm like older, and I saw that, it blew my mind. Like, because it's you're in such a claustrophobic environment for the whole movie. And then you see this incredibly grandiose explosion of this like incredibly expensive and humongous ship, and it's just like, whoa, like that's what it came to. But yeah, so Ripley escapes onto the pod. She's safe, whatever. She does her log. She says like that everyone from the Nostromos is gone. The Nostromos has been destroyed, and if anyone ever finds the recording, that like here I am, or like, this is what happened. And so she's gonna go for the big nap. She's in her tidy whities and like a white t-shirt, and she looks at the wires nearby, and they move. The alien got on the raft ship. So, with the alien on the ship, Ripley puts on a suit, which, by the way, this is such a cool scene because the suits that they wear to go on like the spacewalks are in a small compartment, and and the whole thing is filmed from like I would say like a long shot down, a long shot shooting vertically. Not completely vertical, but like at a 45-degree angle, to the point where you can see Ripley and the rest of the closet, but you can't really tell that it's in a closet. And so the 2 shots you're going from is the shot of the alien, which is a wide angle, to a shot of a long angle of Ripley trying to get a suit on. And so she's putting on the suit, and it's I'm telling you, this whole movie is claustrophobic, but this one scene in particular makes you feel so small and so horrified. And so she puts on the suit, and she sits down on a chair, and then she shoots the alien out at the airlock. And thank God she already put Jonesy in the pod. But shooting him out of the ship, or shooting the alien out of the ship, the alien is flying away until the door closes, because she closes it so it doesn't get in. And we see the goofiest scene in the whole movie, which is a shot outside the spaceship and the alien floating and slamming onto the ship as if it's like a floating like mannequin in the ocean. And it's so goofy. Like, I know it's a serious moment, but I laughed so hard, and I think you'll appreciate it when you see it. But anyways, it's holding onto the ship for dear life. It like walks a little bit to try and find a part of the ship, And unfortunately, it gets in front of the thrusters, and that's where Ripley burns it to hell. And it shoots off the ship, and it's super dramatic, and it's flying into space. And Ripley's oh, I'm finally free. She goes to sleep, and the movie ends with her flying through space, hopefully pray to God that she's going to Earth. But she's flying into far into space. And yeah, it ends with her sleeping. Alien 2, or Aliens is what it's called. I don't want to go over the plot because it's a lot different, but I will say that Alien 1 was, and I think will always be, the best Alien movie out there. Even with the new advanced CGI we're getting and the new storyline that's being created. A new storyline was created. I'm pretty sure it was with Prometheus, Alien Prometheus, if anyone's watched that. I think that's where the new storyline starts. It's either a new storyline or it's an expansion of the universe. But Amanda's not talked about Ellen, who is Ripley. She's not talked about. No one from the original 3 movies are talked about. So I think from the original storyline, and I don't count Resurrection because it's just bad. It's so bad that I enjoyed watching it because I like watching incredibly bad movies. And I don't mean it's bad. I don't mean it's bad in the sense that it's I'm not calling it a garbage movie or whatever. I'm just saying that it did not hold a lot of factors from the original Alien. It didn't hold any of the themes. The practical suits were they veered too far from it. So what I mean to say is a bad movie. It's a bad Alien movie, but I would still say that if it was supposed to be its own standalone film and its own standalone story, then it would have been a decent movie. But the fact that it has Alien smacked on it is what brings it down so low, because it had such high standards to begin with Alien being such an incredibly well done movie by Ridley Scott. But yeah, Alien was such a great movie. I want to talk about the themes. One big theme in Alien is the company, right? The company is this kind of this big brother situation. But one thing I noticed that a lot of films don't do, and that Alien did, was that the company is never to blame, right? The company is never the actual evil. It is just the type of ignorance that makes the evil able to do what it wants. And the evil in question is the alien, or what later on in the series, in the second movie, we learn is called a xenomorph. It's not inherently bad, right? That's not what it's meant to be. We learn later on, it's just a super organism that needs to feed and grow, and it just needs to exist, period, right? It's a pure survival entity. But the fact that the company wants to capitalize on this evil, ignorant to what it's trying to work with, right? It's just trying to make money. And you can't really call it evil, or you can't really call the company evil in the first movie, because they still have yet to know what this alien is. And I loved that theme so much. I mean, a lot of movies you see that there are companies that are evil, but they're evil because they want to be evil, or because they want money. This one is just ignorant to what it wants, or just to what it's dealing with. And it made me appreciate the movie a lot more. And so that's one thing that I really enjoyed. If you watch the movie, again, it's Alien. It's on Disney Plus. It might be on Hulu too, because they're part of the same system. But yeah, for sure it's on Disney Plus. I suggest watching it on your own, and you'll see a lot of undertones in the movie. But definitely the idea of ignorance, and the ignorant, being ignorant to what's out there, and not kind of wanting to be naive, is such a thing the company is very sourced in. Even in the second movie, they're very they're more evil. They're making money, and they don't really know what they're dealing with because they haven't had to deal with a xenomorph. And it's that idea that they're not evil. I like it. There are definitely other people who would interpret it different ways, but that's how I interpret it. Was they're just businessmen, and they're just ignorant, and they're naive to the situation. And that's one thing I really liked. Another one I liked, that I was talking about earlier. The movie is very claustrophobic, and I don't mean claustrophobic in the sense that you're stuck, that you're in a small core, like literal claustrophobia. I mean the fact that there are literally only 7 people. Like, it's already small enough, and the ship is a big ship. Like, don't get me wrong, it's a big ship. Like, you know, it could probably fit a few hundred people, but you're stuck on this ship with 7 people, 6 whenever Kane dies, or is even like leaves the ship one time, and it adds this sense of, you know, like, it's small, like that, and that's one thing if you're on like a ship out in the ocean. This is a ship in an endless void of matter, right? And just that idea of being in an ocean from like the surface, underwater, like imagine if you're on a boat but the entire boat is underwater and it's still like navigating. Like, imagine being in a submarine, right? That would make you claustrophobic. The same thing is to be said in space. Even though there's no water, we're just not thinking about it in the sense that space is being filled with nothing, right? We can't really conceive what nothing is. But just the idea that we don't know the nothing that's out there made this movie way more horrifying for me. Is that, like, it's either the alien or you're dead, or a void of space. And so that idea of claustrophobia, especially with so much distrust, you feel so small in that situation, right? Like, and again, like I said, it's not like you're in a confined area. You just have nowhere else to go. And that's the only Alien movie that holds that theme true, because the second movie expands on the universe. Third movie kind of expands. I don't even want to talk about the third movie. The Resurrection, again, I said it's a garbage movie, so I don't even want to talk about it. Prometheus, again, does not hit on that theme. Covenant does not hit on that theme. And hopefully Romulus will. I hope to see Romulus next weekend or sometimes this week. And if I do and I like it enough, I'm probably going to make an episode on it. Unless no one wants to talk about Alien, which is completely fair, because Alien is very one thing, like one hit. Like, it's a very acquired taste. But yeah, the themes I liked were the ignorance of an organization and the claustrophobia of a situation. And again, I encourage everyone who listens, and if you're listening this long, thank you so much for listening. You don't know how much I appreciate it. But I definitely suggest going and watching these movies. You can watch just Alien, you can watch the rest of them, and kind of get your own idea of the movie or your own understanding. I did not cover this movie very well. There are way more details that I left out simply because I wanted to talk about the main themes and the main courses of the movie, and not so much the movie itself. I just like how there are a lot of artistic mediums that are used in this to make this truly horrifying and truly different from other medias at the time and now. Like, you don't really see movies like these coming out because it was just so different for then that it wouldn't be different now. And that's what makes Alien so cool. It's one of those originals. It's one of the classics. And it's definitely one that you should check out. I will hopefully have an episode out not in next 2 weeks time, hopefully sooner. Like I said, just was going back to school was really messing with me. I'm going to edit this, and I'm actually going to try and edit the audio because there are a lot of things I said that I do not want y'all to hear, simply because I'm goofy and I ramble too much. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Ciao.